I'm non-binary.
So I finished Age the Veilguard and it took me 65 hours. I don't think the game is really that great, but I also don't think it's that bad either. I need to make two disclaimers before I begin. First, I have not played Inquisition, I played Origins and the second game. Despite the divided opinion of the fanbase on the second game, I found Dragon Age 2 actually good. Second, I know the game has some infamous lines which are all over the internet and YouTubers are non-stop picking on them. And while I believe the game is not as disaster like some of the reactions make it seem, it has far bigger issues than those cringe dialogue lines, and I'm gonna break everything down. This review is for people who have some serious interest in the game. Let's begin. The game starts right away with the character creation, which allows you to pick your race, ethnicity, class, and even a background story. Your background story will give you some bonuses during combat and also unlocks different dialogue choices with party members and NPCs later. I think the character creation mode does a solid job here, and yes, you have gender identity and pronouns options, but whatever you choose, you'll be Rook in the game.
Rook, like the chess piece.
One of the strongest pieces on the board, but he tends to think in straight lines.
So if you have problems identifying yourself as a chess piece, this might be not the right game for you already. Difficulty level on my playthrough was, by the way, Underdog, which was hard. Not very hard, just hard. Solus, an elven god, creates the Veil, which is a magical barrier between the world and the Fade. The Fade is basically a spirit world, also known as the Dream World. Solus created the Veil to imprison corrupted elven gods, but doing so cost the elves their magic, freedom, and immortality. So Solus wants to undo that and plans now to destroy the Veil with a ritual. That ritual causes nothing but damage and chaos and opens the door for all kinds of demons. In the meantime, our group of heroes are following a lead that gets them closer to Solus. Varric, Harding, Nav, and our character Rook are trying to stop Solus' ritual, but the job goes south. Varric gets heavily injured, two elven gods manage to escape through the ritual, and Solus ends up in the Fate himself. Since Rook's blood was spilled into the Veil, it is possible to contact Solus through the Dream World, which you're going to do so multiple times throughout the game. It is up to the player whether to be distrustful or open-minded towards Solus. The two elven gods Elganon and Gillenane are unleashed and are starting to corrupt the world already with blighted magic. To stop the elven gods, our team must recruit experts and gather support from factions in different regions. However, this is easier said than done because most are getting attacked non-stop by their enemies, which have now the magic and power support from the gods. Throughout the game, you are actually busy figuring out how to stop the elven gods while requesting support from factions and recruiting experts at the same time. Your companions are Harding, a dwarven scout who fights with her bow, focusing on physical damage, which is good if you want to shred through opponents' defenses. Nav, a private investigator who uses ice magic to slow down enemies. Bellara, a Dalish veil jumper which attacks with electricity. Lucanis, a crow assassin. His specialities are dealing decisive blows on enemies' weak points. The senior necromancer Emmerich, who deals necrotic damage. Davrin, a former Grey Warden who fights with Hassan, a griffin dealing fire damage, and last but not least, Tash.
I'm non-binary.
Now, your companions you recruit not only bring their abilities but also their own personal luggage with them. Their own personal problems distract them from the real threat. To focus your companions completely to the main cause and get their trust and loyalty, you need to help them with their personal dilemma. For example, Harding all of a sudden managed to gain magical powers, which is for a dwarf impossible, and that is now completely overwhelming her. Lucani's family drama, which seems to indicate that there might be a traitor among the crows, and Tash personal identity crisis.
I'm non-binary.
So it's basically the fantasy scenario of Mass Effect 2.
We're bang, okay?
The combat system is very action-oriented. All the tactical aspects has been completely removed at this point. Light attack and second-hand attack will be your main tools in the game. There are also charge attacks to break enemy shields, parries, and range attacks that will be different depending on the class. For my playthrough, I picked Warrior. Overwhelming enemies with aerial attacks, damage buffs, and shield bashes is really fun. A huge advantage that the Warrior class has is that they can block most of the attacks and even parry heavy strikes from enemies later. After beating the game, I tried the other playstyles and I think all the classes play very differently. I think Rogue's flashy playstyle is really fun as well. I love those flashy acrobatic moves and instant teleportation when you perfectly dodge your enemy attacks. Your companions have special skills that can be improved in their own skill tree as well. To do this, you have to complete quests together. Your companion abilities weakens and creates openings on enemies, like applying weakened condition on frenzied enemies, and combining different abilities together creates this slow motion detonation that deals a lot of damage. Some abilities from your companion are pretty cool, like Bellara creating this pool magic that draws enemies in, or the fire breath from Tash
I'm non-binary.
that stuns enemies and pushes them back. You can also use passive skills in combat, like Adrenaline Rush, which gives Rook a shoot boost in damage or defense. Each ability from your companion has a 45-second cooldown that can be reduced by either upgrading the ability or using the Veil Dagger. The Veil Dagger can also give you certain buffs elementary or even make you invulnerable during a short amount of time. Build up an ultimate gouge during combat. Once full, you can perform your ultimate ability. There are a certain amount you can unlock. My favorite is for Gold and Glory, which makes Rook jump in air and crash down with a superhero landing. After leveling up, you can spend points in the skill tree and unlock different skills, abilities or buffs. Depending on your character's backstory, you will have an extra specialization. My Rook, for example, was a Grey Warden, which allows to boost my fire damage significantly. It is fair to say that you can't really become OP, since after reaching max level, which is 50, you won't get any more skill points. However, it is possible to refund and respend your points if you would like to follow a different specialization path. While you explore the world of Thedas, progressing in the story and completing quests, eventually your companions will open up about their personal problems, which opens their individual loyalty quest line. Some of them have been done really well, like Emmerich's for example. He seeks your help to find his former friend Johanna, who is tormenting spirits. In order to find her, you have to enter this haunting mansion. Daverin's loyalty quest to free all the griffins who are currently imprisoned by former corrupted wardens was really fun as well. You can get the loyalty of every companion, but their trust is a different story. Eventually, through events and decisions, some companions will be less trusting and more self-reliant, which will have an impact on their abilities, meaning companions will not perform support abilities anymore. The absolute highlight of the game, which has been done great, was the final mission. I'm not gonna spoil anything, don't worry. Storming the Siege of Gods, which reminds you of the suicide mission from Mass Effect 2, was really fun. You have to assign your companions in battles. The choices will not only be affected by loyalty level, but also faction strength. Are you going to choose magic abilities from Emmerich or Bellara to hold the front line, pick Lucani's swift skills, or count on Tash's strength?
I'm non-binary.
Dragonage has been highly praised as an epic journey by many reviews so far. Here is the thing. I do understand people really enjoying the game because the game has many wholesome and fun moments. However, the game has some serious issues, and no, it's not the few cringe dialogue lines you have seen, it's actually way worse than that. But first things first, let's start with the choices in terms of style and design BioWare did with Dragon Age the Veilguard. The character design is more of a personal problem because I think the characters look like adults in teenager bodies, very reminiscent to some type of chibi style or even straight from an animated Nickelodeon series. I mean, look how Morrigan looks in this game, and this is how Morrigan looked in Dragon Age Origins. What happened? Where is the grittiness and the serious tone the games had originally? Why is everything so colorful and bright? Why is everything so clean? What I mean is, after fighting waves of blighted darkspawn, blood mages or even the gods themselves, you never really see any damages on the character. No blood, bruises, scratches or even dirt on their faces. The characters are always looking clean. The only exception is when you have to do a decision at the beginning of the game, and that's it. The story is a big problem. Besides a handful of cool moments, it's very weak delivered and executed. The first hours, people are worrying about completely irrelevant things.
I even learned how to make Tevinter Khachapuri.
Wait, real khachapuri? The hollowed out bread? 3 kinds of cheese? I love khachapuri.
Sounds disgusting, ain't gonna
What
lie.
about you, Rook? What are you craving?
Nothing right now. I'm just happy you two are hitting it off. I'll see you later.
That was the most useless and dumbest conversation so far. It's more of a typical popcorn flick from Netflix with the MCU type of humor that is painful to listen to most of the times. It never really felt like this epic journey, but rather more this good mood adventure. Rook has this very cool introduction cutscene, but that's also the last piece of badassery you're going to see from the character. I like my character being cold and professional towards companions and NPCs, basically the renegade shepherd.
We're bang, okay?
So based on that, I picked my dialogue choices, but no matter how hard I try and how much I would like to be this badass, at the end, Rook will be this of a positive goofball that jiggles and jokes around companions. You never, and I mean never, say something that might hurt someone's feelings. Even when confronting the villains who are sitting in front of you, the worst thing Rook is gonna say is something like this.
I mean, come on. I know you. You know you. And I know you know that I know you.
It's ironic that the only time my character behaves like an asshole is during a funeral.
That's worth something, right? Now I have to live my life for him, for me, and for our people.
They aren't your problem to solve. You need to live for yourself.
That's true. There's still lots to do.
One character's potential was completely wasted. It is obvious that I mean Taj.
I'm non-binary.
Besides being non-binary, you don't really get any other information or background story. You'll be in the middle of countless forced conversations about this specific topic, which leads eventually to an underwhelming fight to gain the loyalty from the character. And that's it. I really try to take this character serious, but it's hard because every other side character in my party are seeking revenge or having unfinished business with an arch rival, while the questline for Taj,
I'm non-binary.
is a coming out.
So, I'm non-binary. What does that mean? That means I don't feel like a man or a woman.
If you are neither a man nor a woman, then what are you?
Non-binary. I just said.
Evatash Shakrato Ebra.
So I'm supposed to struggle with who I am? Even if I don't feel like I fit, even if I feel wrong?
No, you misunderstood.
Then say it better! Why am I never enough for you?
I will go. Thank you for inviting me to your home. Anahe.
The fact that the character acts like a rebellious, spoiled teenager doesn't make it better. You'll learn nothing about the Kunari or the Lords of Fortune or what it means to be a dragon hunter, because that's what this character is.
I'm non-binary.
Oh wait, my bad, you'll learn something. Let me show what you learn.
Still a stupid name. Dragon King. Dragons wouldn't have kings. They'd have queens.
Yay, let's slay some queens. If you want to call me now a hater and say that I hate Taj
I'm non-binary.
because of that, let me tell you that Emmerich's loyalty questline was probably the best from all. I played the questline, talked with Emmerich, and later I found out that he was gay and was dating someone outside the camp. And that's okay, and that's the difference. I really don't care as what you identify and what your sexual orientation is. The problem is that for whatever reason, one character has personality and the other is.
I'm non-binary.
Every single time the game creates this immersive moment, this great atmosphere, the game shines and it shows the potential it has at its core. But every single time the game does this, immediately all that is taken away in front of your eyes. Every meaningful or sad moment is destroyed with painfully bad written dialogues. Every amazing cutscene is ruined because the game throws in one of those filler bosses that are nothing but tedious, repetitive and boring. And this might be the real problem. The game fails and stretches itself with too many irrelevant dialogues, quests and tank fights. It is the typical quantity over quality problem. The sandbox levels might look good, but the maps are way too small for all those quests that are designed to investigate clues, since clues are always at the same warehouse or camps. Conversation always starts at the same spots. Climax fights from quests are always at the same place. What makes it worse is the fact that the game has 3 enemy types for each faction. Bigger and mini bosses are doing the same moves but are simply reskinned. Same goes, by the way, for actually story-related boss fights. It's just an NPC with the same pattern from regular enemies. You have a good amount of dragon fights, but every dragon fights the same. They do have different elementary power, but all of them fight with the same pattern. You reduce 1/3 of their health bar, then they jump back, recharging their shield and calling demons that you have to deal with now while dealing with a dragon. After taking 2/3 of their health bar, they do the same thing. The only cool dragon fight was during the story where you have to fight 2 dragons at the same time, but after fighting about 6 of them, I knew all the patterns, so it wasn't that big of a deal anymore. After reaching the 30-ish hour mark, the game stagnates because you have seen everything. Quests are boring and nothing but time fillers. You do the same thing over and over and over and over again to strengthen faction A, and then you do the same thing over and over and over again to strengthen faction B. You really don't unlock anything new anymore. Instead of getting new weapons or armor, you simply get skins that you can apply on your weapons, and oh boy, you're getting a lot of them. So you keep going till finally approaching endgame, which, like I mentioned before, has been done really well. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind some grind since combat was all well fun, but that was ruined as well because of the ridiculous amount of tanky enemies that were appearing for no particular reason. I have no idea what the point is to make standard enemies in this game so freaking tanky. You might think that the bigger brutes, darkspawn, ogres, dragons, or even the gods themselves are the hardest enemies in this game, but nope. The hardest enemies are simpletons that withstand for no freaking reason tons and tons of damage. Those fights are nothing but pure agony. You attack with everything you have, combining attacks, reducing the health bar to 10% just to die by one attack after spending 50 minutes bashing on those guys. You really can't tell when that happens. On one moment you kill standard enemies with ease by simply hitting them 2 to 3 times, and suddenly a non-relevant side quest, those guys are the worst nightmare. Why? How? What's the point? Those are literally the same enemies. My final rating for Dragon Age the Veilguard is a 6 out of 10. I must admit I had way more fun than I expected. However, some stuff wasn't really my taste, like the design of the characters, the colorful ambient, the very weak story, and the massive amount of filler content the game has, which wasn't absolutely needed. Thank you very much for watching my review, and bye.
I'm non-binary.
Thanks.